Hello friends. Now in the previous session we have discussed about the material handling and storage topic under safety and engineering industries, and in the previous session we have discussed about the manual handling of these handling and storage processes. Now in this presentation I am going to discuss about the mechanical material handling. So we have discussed manual material handling and now we are going to discuss about the mechanical material handling. So from the name itself, it is clearly mentioned that we are going to handle the materials, we are going to store these materials with the help of some vehicles, some trucks, some machineries and some energy. That is why it is called as mechanical material handling. When we are going to deal with this material, that is the handling and storage of this material with the help of manpower, that is manually, then it is called as manual material handling, right? So the contents for these presentations are general requirements of mechanical handling, statutory provisions, lifting machines and tackles, hazards and precautions of remote operated lifting machines, lift and hoist, safety aspect of lifts, signaling testing, inspection and maintenance, industrial trucks, types and safety aspects of lifting tackles, safety in design, construction and operation of lifting machines and tackles, care, testing, inspection and maintenance of lifting machines and tackles, inspection of tackles, safe location, conveyors and their safety features, safe working load and competent person, their duties and responsibilities. So in overall, we are going to discuss about the different types of mechanical equipment which are used in the industry for handling these materials. Simultaneously, we must discuss about the competent person, the expert person and the legal requirement in the acts as well as in the rules. What is the duty and responsibility of the competent person is also one of the important aspect as far as this mechanical material handling is concerned. So the legal requirement first, that is nothing but the statutory provisions, Factory Act section 28 and 29 of this Factory Act are regarding hoist and lifts with platform or cage and fixed way and lifting machines and tackles. So this is the main reference at national level, section 28-29 of Factory Act. Difference between this lifting machine and lifting tackles is explained in this section 29, and lifting machine is nothing but crane, crab, winch, eagle, pulley block, gin wheel, transporter or runway. And lifting tackle means chain sling, rope sling, hook, shackle, swivel, coupling, socket, clamp, tray or similar appliances, whether fixed or movable, used in the connection with the raising or lowering of persons or loads by using the lifting machines. So whatever the parts, whatever the machineries which are used for a lifting purpose, and these lifting machines are nothing but the crane, crab, winch, etc. And the parts which are used in these machines for lifting purpose are called as lifting tackles. So these are the main 2 points which is explained in the section 29 of Factory Act 1948. Then another legal reference is there, that is Bombay Lift Act and Rule. So this Bombay Lift Act 1939 has 14 sections, and from this 14 section there are 3 to 4 sections which is related to this lifting machines and mechanical material handling. So this is section 3, which includes the definitions of lift, lift car, lift installation, lift way enclosure, and then section 4 to 7A requires the permission to erect a lift, report of completion of erection, license to use a lift, and no operations, addition or alteration to the lift, etc. So these sections are related to the lift and their permissions, and this is the section 3, which is related to the definitions. Section 8 8a gives right of lift, inspector and owner's duty, and section 9 is related to the accident reporting and what exactly the format is required, what are the conditions for accident reporting to the inspector of lift and commissioner of police or district. So these are the different sections which gives us the guidelines regarding this mechanical material handling, especially when we are talking about the lift, because in the previous days we are using mainly a lift as a lifting machine, which is under explaining the Bombay Lift Act and rule. Now these are the general requirement of mechanical handling. So some of you may be knowing about all these mechanical equipments, mechanical handling equipments or storage equipments, and some of you are not knowing about these types of equipment. So I have shown you some of the pictures of some of these equipments so that you can understand what exactly these vehicles are. So initially we must know what exactly the mechanical handling is. So mechanical handling is defined as the movement of goods by mechanical force. So in the movement, in the transportation of material with the help of mechanical force, that is called as mechanical handling. So the purpose of this mechanical force or mechanical handling is feeding, loading, unloading, etc. and with the help of this machine, plant or in the storage place, etc. So all these activities are done, that is mechanical handling can be done with the help of vehicles, ships or air transport. The equipment employed may be powered by electromagnetic energy, may be hydraulic energy or pneumatic energy. So these mechanical equipments, what we have mentioned, may be used hydraulic, pneumatic or electromagnetic energy. Main hazards of mechanical handling are contact with moving dangerous parts, that is pulley belts, gears, in running nips, coupling, etc. And the main hazard or the chances of incidents are falling from the height or on the floor, striking against or struck by falling bodies. So these are the general or main hazards in the mechanical handling equipments. Now, how to select the equipment, which is already mentioned that these types of equipments and with the help of these energies, mechanical equipments can be used. So depending on the application, we have to select appropriate equipment in these industries. So there are different factors on which this selection is depends, like weight, shape, size, physical and chemical characteristics, rate of handling, purpose and distance of moving, obstacles if any, structural conditions of the floor, pathway and direction of the movement, etc. So on the basis of these factors, we have to select the appropriate equipments. So from this table, you can have the idea which type of equipment is appropriate for that particular applications. For example, this EOT, that is electric overhead traveling crane. This EOT is useful for lifting, shifting and placing anywhere in the traveling area. So if you want to lift, if you want to shift or place some materials from one point to another point in the traveling area, then you can select the EOT as a mechanical equipment for this material handling. In a similar way, jeep crane, that is mobile or gantry crane, for the use of lifting and shifting at desired places. Then power trucks, that is 3 or 4 wheeler truck to pick, hold and carry, that is transportation of this material can be possible with the help of this power truck. Then conveyors for transporting or conveying the material between two fixed points. So in the conveyors cases, the starting and end point should be fixed. Then and then only we can use this conveyors. If the points are not fixed, if that is changing, then you can go for the power trucks. Then the other equipments like lifting tackles, they are rings and slings, chain or rope, metal or fiber, hooks, shackles and swivels. They are used to connect load or container to any lifting devices. So these lifting tackles are used to lift the specific material with the help of some rings and slings assembly. That is with the help of some chain and rope. So that chain and rope may be having the material of construction like metal, maybe fiber, and maybe some other composite materials which is available nowadays. Then forklift truck. So this truck, it is power truck having projecting fork to pick, hold, carry and unload the material or a container. May be power driven or battery operated, conveniently used on smooth floor. So nowadays we are using this power truck, that is forklift truck, that is battery operated, to reduce the pollution, to reduce the consumption of the fossil fuels. Then payloaders, power shovels, winch clamp, pullers, etc. are used to dig, lift and transport heavy material. Well and hydraulic pneumatic jacks, train operators, supervision and good maintenance is necessary for operating these types of equipments. So for heavy material, these payloaders, power shovels, winch clamp and pullers are useful. Then lift and elevators. So elevators moves vertical, horizontal or in any unilateral direction. That is depending on the cable path. We have to install this cable path as per our requirement between the two fixed points, and then we can shift the material, we can load or unload the material, we can convey this material from one point to another point, which are the fixed points. So we can elevate the material, means at a particular angle also we can convey this material, that is from bottom to particular, at a particular height at the top. Say for example, in the boiler operations we required the fossil fuels like coal or biobriquettes etc. for the combustion purpose, and we have to move these coal or biobriquettes from the ground floor to a first or second floor with the help of these elevators for the burning purpose, and after burning the steam can be generated with the help of boiler mechanisms. So these are some of the examples where we are using these equipments and for a particular purpose. The next main equipment is hoist. So there are different types of hoist like electric, pneumatic and hand operated chain hoist. So chain hoist are of three types again, that is spur gear, differential and screw gear. That is also called as worm drive. The spur gear type is most efficient. Push button cable must be supported by a chain to protect against strain. So we will discuss later on what exactly these types of hoist are and subtypes also. Then the next one is monorails. So should be able or it is well supported on both ends like hanging bridge. So these monorails are nothing but a railway driven working mechanism on a particular height. The chain pulley, block or hoist mounted on it. It should be moved freely. Stops must be provided at both the ends, useful to lift load and carry horizontally between the two fixed points. So I will show you the pictures or the photograph, actual photograph of all these equipments so that you can understand what exactly the hoist is, what exactly the monorails, forklift truck, etc. Now, before discussing the details of all these equipments, we must know what is the legal requirement or what is the mandatory requirement for utilizing or for using these types of equipments. So the initial one is lifting machines and tackles. So as per the Factory Act, as per the factory rule, the rule may be a state rule. So that may be a Maharashtra factory rule, that may be a Gujarat factory rule or some other state rules. So in all these types of rules with the reference of Act, that is Factory Act and Bombay Act, they have mentioned that all these lifting machines and tackles should be tested and examined by a expertise or by a competent person. So these competent persons have already certified by a government agency or the DISH office, that is Department of Industrial Safety and Health, and the competent persons are going to check mainly the SWL limit, that is called as safe working load. So this safe working load is the main concept where you have to check all these lifting machines and tackles with SWL, and we have to mark the maximum SWL capacity for that particular equipment or for that particular tackle. So we should not go beyond the safe working load of any type of equipment or machinery or the tackles. So the types and safety aspects for these lifting machines. So generally, when we are talking about the lifting machines like crane, pulley block, monorail, crab, winch, derrick, etc., then we should refer the chapter 7 of rule number 55 to 81 under building and other construction worker rules, where the guidelines of all these details are available. So the different types of cranes are available like jeep crane, pillar crane, climbing crane, overhead crane, then gantry crane, cantilever gantry crane, semi-gantry crane, hammerhead crane, well crane or wall crane, etc. So all these types of crane are required the competent person, required the testing and examination, required the training of people who are going to handle all these types of crane, because we must know the SW limits, we must know the start and stop buttons, we must know the safe distance to operate for these trains, we must know the maximum loading capacity of that particular crane. So detailed safety rules for inspection, operating, signaling and maintenance should be available in writing. The operator should be trained for all these things, and all these things are mentioned in the building and other construction worker rule. So this is one of the crane, that is overhead traveling crane. So from this picture you can understand what exactly the overhead traveling crane is. So overhead means above the head, that is at the top at a particular distance. These horizontal metallic pieces are used to support these cranes and to support these wires and their assemblies or the different parts of this crane. So from this picture you can understand what exactly the overhead traveling crane is. Now one of the overhead traveling crane is EOT or OET, that is electrically operated, that is power driven overhead traveling cranes. So if these trains are electrically or power driven, then it is called as EOT or OET cranes. And others are non-powered, that means they are operating by manual operations. So manually operated overhead traveling cranes are different, and power driven, that is electrically operated cranes are different one, that is EOT, and others are non-EOT, that is manually operated overhead trains. So in the use of these cranes, great care should be taken for the safe and adequate means of access. Necessary that all ladders and steps should be provided with secure handholds and footholds. Stairways are preferable to ladders. Then proper landing or stages should be provided at the point of transfer from ladder to the driver's cabin. So one of the main aspect is again the driver's cabin and their views. While any person is employed or in working or near the wheel track of traveling crane in any place where he would be liable to be struck by the crane, effective measure should be taken to ensure that the crane docks not approach 6 meter of the place. So this is one of the important criteria, that there should be no movement, no activity within the area of 6 meter place of these types of cranes. Effective means should be arranged to prevent a crane from traveling into the dangerous zone. So this dangerous zone is nothing but the 6 meter place for these EOTs. Then the passageway of the crane. So the passage should be of 50 centimeter width to about 10 centimeter shall be provided at the lower level than the crane track, and safe access ladders like width should be greater than 40 centimeter. Double handrails of 90 centimeter high shall also be provided. So all these things are given in the state rules, factory rules. So that may be MFR, GFR, TFR, etc. Then vertical head clearance is 2 meter, and rubber mat should be provided for operating these types of panels. Then the cab driver should have full view of the area of the work. Rail alignment should be checked every year. Rail stops or bumpers should be so located that when contacted, the crane bridges remains right angle with the runway. When not in use, a crane should be parked with the hook raised at a safe height, all controls in off position, and the main switch open. So we have to take care while operating these types of cranes, especially the entry or the walkway, for the head clearance, for the rail alignments, and even when it is not in use, then also we have to take care about these things. Inspection and testing of these EOT, that is electrically operated trains, are done by the different mechanisms, especially when we are talking about the trains. The normal arrangement like control mechanisms should be checked, then the preventive maintenance should be taken care, then lubrications is one of the common activities in these chains, and fully trained peoples or the crane operators are essential criteria. Other than this, inspection and testing of heavy duty EOT crane include the deflection test, overload test, operation test, insulation test, warning light test, earthing and bonding check, hoist and track limits, then switches check, proximity warning device check, braking and locking check, control gear check, guarding and weather protection, means of access, buffers, and wire ropes of sufficient capacities. So these are the different parameters which we have to check every year for these types of EOT. And the competent person as a third person is also going to verify all these types of tests, and they are going to check or verify the limits or the parameters which is clearly mentioned in these types of test. So in the deflection test, the deflection test must be carried out with the SW, that is safe working load, rest, and with the crab in central position. The deflection should be not exceed 1/900 of the span. So whatever the span which is decided by the application and the operator, the 1/900 is the maximum limit of that particular span for the deflection. So that is the maximum permissible limit for the deflection, that is called as deflection test. Now other than EOT, these are the jeep cranes. So from the picture itself, you have to understand what exactly the jeep cranes are. Now from these pictures, you can understand these cranes are fixed at a particular point, that is vertically at a particular point in the industry, and these cranes can be moved from one point to another point, but with this point only. Then the wires or ropes are used to lift or to carry the loads or the materials, and some hooks arrangement is also there. So these jeep cranes means a stationary or mobile crane. So sometimes we require only stationary crane like this. So this is not going to move. This is the fixed jeep crane, and this can be moved like this. So these are the mobile crane in which suspension rope is supported by a projecting horizontal or inclined member known as jeep. So this member is called as jeep. That is why these cranes are called as jeep crane. So jeep crane can lift, lower, and rotate the load within the circular arc covered by the rotating arm or jib. It is important that the capacity of the jib crane clearly showing the maximum safe working load, that is SWL. So we should not use the load beyond this maximum SWL limit. And if it is the case, then it may be the case of overloading, and there are chances of accidents or the cracking of this jib or the ropes or some other parts. So depending on the load, there are chances of accidents, and that is why we must follow the maximum limit of SWL. The structure should be checked for its strength before mounting a jib crane. This jib should be guide or braced to withstand the heavy load. So this structure means this one. So this structure should be checked initially before installing the jib crane. A stop plate, that is bumper at the end of the jib, is necessary to prevent the load trolley from the running of the beam. So this is one of the mechanical equipment, that is jib crane. Then the next one is bridge and gantry cranes. So from this picture again, you can understand these cranes are fixed at a particular points, and these 2 points are also fixed. There is no rotation in these types of cranes. Now in this picture you can understand these are the different types of cranes from this one, and that is why it is called as, one is initially is called as bridge and second one is called as gantry cranes. So we will discuss what exactly these bridge cranes and gantry cranes are. So these are similar to traveling cranes except that they run on rails at ground level. So that is the main difference. It is at ground level. The initial, that is previous one, jib crane is on the hanging position, that is above the head, and now it is at the ground level. So these gantry cranes have short spans, while bridge cranes may have span up to 100 meters. So these gantry cranes are having a limited spans, and these bridge cranes are having 100 meter or more than 100 meter span. Bridge cranes are usually used to handling the coal or ore, that is more weight or heavy material handling, but on a fixed path. Then sweep guards on nip between the rail and wheels, rail clamps, brakes to prevent the movement due to high wind, safe height of electric contact rails, operator's cabin to be fireproof and weatherproof. So the operator's cabin is also one of the point where we should taken care for this weather and the fire accidents or fire hazards. Then a sounding device, that is gong, should always warn when the crane is moving, and a rope ladder in the cab of emergency escape and for the locking ratchets on the wheel locks. Then design safety measures should include the over travel limit switches, protection of bare conductors, control to prevent inadvertent operations, and load indicators, safety catches, emergency escapes, operating positions, and marking of SWL. So this SW should be readable one because we have to follow these SWL limits only. So these are the bridge and gantry cranes. Then pulley blocks or chain hoist. So from this picture you can understand what exactly the pulley blocks or chain hoist are. These are the spur gear, screw gear, and differential chain hoist. They may be portable but permanently hooked onto a monorail trolley or built into the trolley as an integral part. So depending on our application again, we have to choose this type of chain, that is maybe portable or portable plus fixed or only fixed type. They are suitable for many operations on which a block or tackle fitted with the manila rope is used and are stronger and more dependable than the rope tackle. The spear gear type is the most efficient and the screw gear and differential hoist are self-locking to automatically hold a load in position. Load carrying part should be made up of steel. Load safety factor of chains should be more than 5. It should not be, it should be more than the 10 for Manila rope. So these load safety factors are also important depending on what exactly you are going to use. If you are going to use the chain, then the load safety factor is 5, and if you are going to use the Manila rope, then the load safety factor is 10. Um, while using this pulley block in confined spaces, the whole block or the rope or while lead should be guarded. For the details of these pulley blocks or chain hoist, we can refer the factory rules, we can refer the building and other construction worker rule 1998, or some Maharashtra factory rule or Gujarat factory rule or some state rules. Now this is a monorail, what we are talking about. So from this picture you can understand what exactly the monorail is. This system consists of one or more independent trolleys. So these are the trolleys from or within an overhead track from which hoists are suspended. Monorail hoists are used to raise, lower and transport the materials. They are of 3 types: hand operated, semi hand operated and fully power operated. So nowadays we can use these fully operated monorails with the help of remote control device. Rail stops at the ends of monorail tracks are desirable, and the tracks and their supports must be checked for the strength and smooth running. So the competent person is going to check all these things on an annual basis. The next one is crabs and winches. So from the diagram, from the actual picture, you can understand what exactly the crabs and winches and their application. So they may be hand operated and then may be electrical driver. So if you are observing the mechanical equipments which are old one, that is conventional one, so most of the equipments are manual operated or hand operated, but nowadays we are using the power driven equipments. Portable crabs and winches must be securely anchored against the pull of the hoist or hoisting rope or the chain. So this is the foundation, because this foundation is going to give the strength or the rigidity characteristics to these crabs and winches. A dog to lock the gears and brake or safety lowering device, crank pin, then lever on ball and gear guards are necessary. Barricade guards are necessary to protect the operator against the breaking wire and recoil of broken ropes. Sometimes this may be happen due to the overload condition or due to the more utilization of these ropes or the chains with the help of some heavy loads and for longer times. So for more details, you can refer the rule number 59 and 81 of the Building Workers Central Rule 1998. Then derricks. So from the picture again, you can understand what exactly the derrick is. So main types of the derricks are stiff leg, a frame, guy gene pole, and the breast derrick. Within all derricks, every part should be firmly anchored. So striking from mast, boom, sill, pulley block and swivel hook should be prevented. So these are the main hazards in these derrick operations. The hoist engine should be firmly tightened with the baste. So we have to check the strength of the basement. We have to check the attachment of these derricks with the platform where we are installing all these derricks. And for safe rigging of derrick and its gear, rigging plans should be available. So again, we have to take care about the safe working load or maximum working load, which we have to carry on these types of derricks, because there are many accidents happen in history due to heavy load and due to irregular inspection of these strength, corrosion, or some crack points on the derricks. So due to this, there are chances of accidents. Then the hazards which are present in these types of mechanical equipments are, as directions are mentioned on the remote, operator is likely to be confused. Chances of accident in case of wrong movements of direction are possible. So if the trained people are not there, and if the untrained people or half trained people are operating these types of mechanical equipments, then there are chances of accidents due to the wrong movement or due to the non-coordination of the co-worker and the operator. The person which is not trained may be a major case for these types of accidents or the hazards. Then in case the push button or lever gear is pressed by mistake, crane motion may be started automatically. So we have to take care about all these power driven or remote control operating devices. So sometimes it also happen that some other devices which is running on the radio frequencies are also available in that area, and due to that radio frequency, these cranes may be started or may be operated accidentally. Then some advantages and disadvantages of all these mechanical equipments or lifting machines are: the advantages, operator is not required to climb on the lifting machine. Then operator can operate the crane close to the load. This gives more accuracy and precision in handling. Then communication between the operator and attendant is better. Hand signaling may not be required. Verbal communication is possible. Operation of crane is easier. So communication is better in this case. Then for smaller lifting, the work of signaler or attendant may be carried out by the operator himself. So there is no need of additional attendant if the small lifting is there. If the heavy material or more number of equipments or material is going to handle, then we require attendant, or any other person can easily be trained for these types of crane operations. No chance of electrical shock, as it is completely isolated from the high voltage lines or the area. So these are some of the advantages. Now the disadvantages are, as the remote works on radio frequency operator that may operate the crane from any place. He may not be moving close with the load. So for that purpose, sometimes some industries are preferring to operate these types of equipments, that is called as wired equipments, not the remote based. Then crane remains unattended, as operator is not close to the crane. Any abnormality like noise, vibration, loose part, lubrication is not noticed regularly. Maintenance operation, or the maintenance person or the maintenance operator is required to check the crane regularly. That is one of the disadvantage, because we have to check the strength, we have to check the rigidity, we have to check the each and every part of these types of cranes before starting the actual operation. In case of operating from ground, the operator doesn't get the overall view of the complete scene. Example, that is obstruction in the part of moving crane. Main switch in the control cabin is not accessible. So sometimes blind spots are created, which is again the major hazard in the industries. License is required for radio frequency used for the remote control. So nowadays we are using the RF based devices, that is radio frequency based devices, which are easier to handle, easier to operate, but sometimes dangerous when the radio frequency of the similar equipment is same. Now the next one is lifts and hoist separately. So as far as the Factory Act and the state rules are concerned, there are different guidelines, different forms, and different calculations are mentioned regarding these lifts and hoist. The main formula for these lifts, that is for the horsepower to lift a load, is HP, that is horsepower, equal to L into S divided by 450. So L is the load in lbs, that is pounds, and S is the speed of lift in feet per second. So from this formula we can calculate the horsepower which is required to lift a load, and from that basis we can calculate the horsepower requirement and the machinery requirement for this lifting of the material. Then these are the different safety guidelines for the design, construction and operation of these types of lifts or hoist. So hoist limit switch to cut off power and apply brakes. That is one of the major concern which is required as far as the safety is concerned. Then limit switches to prevent over traveling and over transferring. So limit switches should be incorporated for over traveling or over transferring. Then emergency push button for prompt use. So in case accidentally if you start the crane, if you start the lift or hoist, then we have to stop this hoist or lift immediately. For that purpose we have to incorporate this emergency push button for prompt use. Then isolation switch to cut off all power except lighting. Proper earthing should be provided. Off position interlocking to prevent the circuit breaker from being closed unless all the controllers are in off position. Then screens on bare conductors. Then pilot lamps to indicate on or off condition. Then hand lamp for some other operations. That is, the limitation is 25 volt DC or AC. Then earthing as per the electricity rules is required. That is, very less resistance is required in the earthing purpose with the help of electricity rules. Then means of anchoring when the hoist or crane is left unattended or under storm conditions. And some other guidelines are also given for the safeguards to retain ropes in grooves, safe means of access, then ladders and guards on moving parts, then examination for wear, malfunctioning, damage, and proper operations of these hooks, ropes, brakes, clutches, and limit switches. So there are safety points for operations like no loading over SWL, then marking of SWL, and load indicators for varying SWL. So if there are different SWL limits, then we have to indicate it on the lift or hoist, which is a readable one. And likewise there are different guidelines like full vision in driver's cabin, then the facilities of fire hydrant systems or fire extinguishing systems should be there, then some guard provision should be there, etc. So these are the general safety guidelines in designing, construction and operation of this lift and hoist. And this is the specific guidelines, that is specific safety aspects for safe design operation of lift or elevator only. So some parameters like lift wells, lift well enclosures, lift pit, top and bottom clearance, then landing gate and doors, lift cars and buffers. So all the guidelines are given while designing or operating the lift or elevators. Then in a similar way, for this lift or elevator, there are different parameters for this design and construction from the safety point of view. Suspension ropes, then emergency safety devices, overspeed governor, slack rope switch, machine room, then machine supports, final limit switches, etc. So you can understand from the title itself that what exactly the content will be. But the main points and the statistical data is given by the competent person or with the help of acts or rule guidance only. Now the point in the hoist and lifting handling is signaling. So importance of this proper signaling for cooperation between the operator and the signalers, or the motion indicator should be recognized. So the attendant or the signaler is going to communicate with the operator that you should move this hoist, you should move this left, or you should move this particular mechanical equipment or the part of that mechanical equipment in this direction or at particular height or at lowering or at raising, etc. So all these guidance, all these communication, all these signals are given by this signaler or the attendant. So signaler should be thoroughly acquainted with the standard hand signals, the operation of the lifting machines, the correct methods of securing, handling, stacking and pulling the loads. Then should be completely responsible for arranging these slings or other hooks on devices and giving the signals that direct the equipment operator during the moving of the load. Because these operators are not having a full vision in that particular area where they are using this hoist, lift or other mechanical equipments. So when some blind spots are there, then the importance of the signaler or the attendant is more than the in normal case. The crane operator shall respond to signals only from the appointed signaler, but shall obey a stop signal at any time from anybody. So for carrying out some of the operations, that may be a lowering task, that may be a raising of that part, or that may be a movement in a particular direction, etc. So all these communication should be done by the appointed signaler or trained signaler only. But in case of emergency, if someone says the signal of stop, then we have to initially stop the hoist, stop the lift, and then communicate what exactly happens. Then the testing, inspection and maintenance of this hoist and lift. So testing includes the insulation test for electric wiring. Test voltage should be DC and insulation resistance of each wiring circuit should not be more than 2 ohms. So test for satisfactory operations of each controller, switch, contactor, relay, interlocks, sequence of operation, protected devices. Then tolerance on specified speeds at full load shall be within 10% only. So the tolerance, that is the difference, is only 10%. So all the tests should be carried out at the satisfied level. Then overload test by 125% of the working load. So this is the only test where we are increasing the load more than 10% tolerance. That is overload test, which is needed to test the overload of that particular equipment or machinery. Then proof load may be vary from 1.5 to 4 times of the SWL, which is already mentioned in this part, and ropes or wire rope should be tested. So periodic inspection, then we have to inspect all these unsafe conditions, we have to inspect the damaged parts, we have to inspect the wear and tear of these parts, then we have to check the fiber ropes, their strength, their thickness, their life, then lifting gears, tires, etc. So all these things are under the testing, inspection and maintenance. In some of the activities, especially when we are talking about the permit to work systems, then we have to follow these guidelines which is given by the superior persons or the officers. Notice like under repair, out of order, don't start, etc. shall be displayed. So for the permit to work systems, these are nothing but the tags. So normally we are talking about this LOTO system under the permit to work system, that is lockout and tag out. So if some tags are clearly mentioned that it is under repair, if it is out of order, or don't start this machine, don't start this energy source, etc., then we have to ask the officer or the responsible person before starting or doing the activity related to that permit to work systems. Now these are the industrial trucks which is used for unloading, for loading, for moving the material from one to another point, and these power trucks are usually operated by the petrol, diesel, LPG, etc. So normally we are using the IC engine in these types of power trucks, but nowadays we are using the battery operated power trucks. So they carry lift, push, pull, stack and tire material. So these trucks are of many types such as fixed platform, elevating platform, forklift, motorized hand truck, controlled by walking operator, electronically controlled without operator, or AGV, that is automated guided vehicle. Then straddle trucks, crane trucks, etc. So with the help of artificial intelligence, nowadays we are also using these power trucks that is in the automatic motions. So we can plan a particular path, we can fix a particular load, and we after feeding the program, the machine that is power truck is going to operate all these activities which is given step by step. So these trucks you can understand, these are the fork. So these, with the help of these forks, with the help of these hydraulic mechanisms, or with the help of these rods, they can easily lift a particular load and then they can move from one point to another. Likewise, in this type of power truck, the different arrangement is there, and here another arrangement in this type of power truck. So there are various types of trucks which are available for handling these types of material mechanically. Now the safety precautions to be observed for these types of trucks while loading or unloading the materials, that is in the operations. The capacity of every lift truck should be marked on the truck and that should be followed. That is the main point while handling these types of material with the help of this type of trucks. Loaded or empty fork should be carried as low as possible but high enough not to strike a ramp. So care must be taken to avoid the jerking when tilting a load forward or backward, especially when the load is at a height. So we have to take care about all these activities. We have to take care about the center of gravity. We have to take care about the maximum load capacity for carrying by these types of trucks at a maximum height and the minimum height also. So the personnel must not be allowed to ride on the forks. Forks should be driven well under the load, preferably full length or at least 2/3 of the length. When there is a danger of falling objects over the operator, then canopy overhead guard should be provided. Then SLs, floors, etc. should be maintained in good condition, including proper lighting. So proper lighting is again essential condition when we are handling these types of material with the help of power trucks in the evening or in the night shift. Then the mirrors at turning points, that is at corners, to avoid the front collisions of two forklifts coming in opposite direction. The other operational safety precautions for all types of power trucks are, and the selection and training of the operator is again an important point for or as a precautionary measure which is observed in the operation of these forklift trucks. Then some do's and don'ts should be displayed and the operator should know all these do's and don'ts while handling these trucks. While traveling Fork should be in lowered position and it should not be moved for tilting, lowering or lifting. Lift truck should be driven in the reverse direction when the load obstructs the vision or while coming down from the ramps or slopes. Then visibility should be more. Some loads should be calculated and should be understood by the operator before uh, handling these types of load. Then all these testing and maintenance or repair activity should be done. That is like stability test, brake test, fork load test, etc. Then load backrest extension, tires guards, guards on chain, sprockets, gears, etc. Nameplate with capacity, horns and flashlights are also required. So these are the different points, which is nothing but the safety precautionary measures for handling these types of industrial trucks. Then safety points for power trucks should include three sections like safe operating conditions, then hazards in truck operations and collisions. So we have already discussed that there are different points like less lighting, less ventilations or some height limitations or some lower limitations or overload conditions or some mirrors are not available, especially for the corners, or if the train peoples are not there, if the attendants are not there, if the testing, inspection or repairing is not done frequently, then there are chances of collisions, there are chances of accidents or incidents. Then the training of operators, the proper selection and training of operators for any lifting equipment and power trucks are the most essential. The operator should be more than 18 years age, medically fit with regard to eyesight, hearing, reflexes and driving requirements, and should have experience and attitude to operate the equipment safely. So these are the conditions for the operators. So obviously it is 18 years plus and must go through the training. They should be fully trained to drive and operate the equipment with better judgment of distance, height, depth, clearance and turning. Knowledge of working of the equipment, routine checks, maintenance methods, signal code, color code, hazards of material and their handling should also be given. So any safe equipment may be unsafe if it is untrained. So you should know all the things which is related to that particular equipments. So there are different guidelines which is also given by the National Safety Council and some other agencies for training of operators. And this is the 9 most common forklift truck accidents described by the Theodore H. Allegri in his book, which is Employee Struck by Forklift Truck. That is one of the main accident. Employee is struck by forklift truck. So it is mainly happen when we are talking about these blind spots. So this is one of the blind spots. So if it is the person or the employee is walking or standing in that blind spot, then there are chances of accident. So forklift throws load on employee standing between the forklift trucks and a fixed object. So throwing of this load, that is again a second accident. Then operator struck by falling parts while manually handling materials. Then operator or other employee is injured while boarding or stepping down from the forklift. Then operator fails to recognize serious hazards ahead and fails to slow down the truck. Then vehicle runs into other moving vehicles, vehicles backs or runs off the edge of the loading dock. Parts of the operator's body protruding outside the running lines of the truck, and then the parts fall on the operators. So these are the different 9 most common accident which is given by this author. The main causes of these accidents are lack of knowledge or skill, operator being inattentive to the job, an operator taking chances with full knowledge of possible sequences or consequences. So lacking of knowledge or lacking of skill is one of the aspect. Then attentiveness is another parameter. If he is not attentive, then there are chances of accident. And even though he is having the knowledge, but still he is taking the risk and he is knowing about these possible consequences. So these are the main three causes for these types of accident which is related to the forklift trucks. Therefore, an accident reduction program should include the provision of quality training, include of follow-up into every program, control of safe practices, etc. So these are the main accidents which is related to the industrial trucks, the main causes, and there are some accident reduction programs like provision of quality training, inclusion of follow-up into every program, control of safe work practices, etc. Now this is related to the type and safety aspects of lifting tackles. So we have discussed mainly on the lifting machines, trucks, cranes, etc. Now these are the tackles. So lifting tackles, gear or appliance means fiber ropes, slings, wire rope slings, chain slings, hooks, rings, sheaves, groove pulleys, swivel, shackles, and similar gears. So from this picture, you can understand what exactly the ropes are. That may be a manila rope or sisal ropes are specially used for this hoisting, lowering, or handling these types of operations. So we should know the breaking strength of these ropes. That may be a manila or sisal ropes. So these are the fiber ropes. Fiber ropes are very susceptible to mechanical damage and they should therefore be frequently inspected for their strength. Particular care is necessary for these types of fiber ropes. So fiber rope of less than 12 mm diameter should not be used for a sling or a lifting device. That is one of the main criteria, that you have to use this fiber rope having more than 12 mm diameter. For ropes, safe working load can be calculated by dividing the minimum breaking load quoted by the manufacturer by factor of safety depending on the use for SWL and factor of safety. Periodical inspection of the whole length of rope is necessary to detect broken wires, amount of wear, corrosion, rust, etc. Broken wires in a rope must always be regarded as warning signs. Wire ropes must not be knotted. So there should not be knot in between. So there should be a continuous wire or fiber rope. So these are some of the examples of these lifted tackles, that is ropes or chains. So this is the chain sling. That may be a choker, vertical, basket, two leg bridle, two single baskets, inverted baskets. So depending on the requirement, depending on the application, we have to choose these types of tackles for appropriate applications. These are some of the examples. Again, single leg, double leg, three leg, four leg, etc. And the next tackle is shackles. So from the picture itself, you can understand what exactly the shackle is. So shackles, according to the difference in shapes, are known as respectively as D and bow shackles. The pins are usually of circular section, which is shown in this picture. The methods of securing shackle pins in position vary according to the nature of the use of shackles. Then all slings, rings, hooks, shackles, fivals, couplings, sockets, etc. should be used as per the Indian standards. So all the IS standards should be followed. So all these norms contains the different types of testings, different guidelines, thicknesses, material of construction, then permissible working load, safety working load, etc. The main requirement for the safety in design, construction, operation of these lifting machines and tackles are section 29, which we have already discussed, and the rule number 60 of Gujarat factory rule. So depending on your state, you can refer that particular rule number for the particular state factory rule. So you can go through these sections of Factory Act and the rules for more details. The main things are the guidance is given for the handling process, for the material of construction, for the different types of test, for the thicknesses, safe working load, etc. And then the inspection, testing, maintenance or repair facility, and the frequent observations or the frequent inspection by the competent person. So this examination by a competent person should be at least once in a year, and a traveling crane should not be moved within 6 meters of any person, where he would be liable to be struck by the crane, and all rails and tracks shall be of proper size, adequate strength, even running surface properly laid and maintained and adequately supported. So SWL is one of the important parameter. Then next one is heat treatment. So heat treatment should be given to these lifting machines and tackles to have a greater strength, the appropriate hardness, the particular ductility, and the toughness in that machine or the tackles. So heat treatment is also necessary. So all these guidelines are given under these sections and rules. So you can refer these rules. For example, rule number 60, sub rule is 5 GFR, which requires annealing of parts in general use at least once in a year, and that of the parts used to lift molten metal or slag, or if made of less than 12.7 mm dia, once in 6 months. So there are specific guidelines for specific slings, that is maybe for the chain slings, that may be for the wire rope, that may be for the different diameters of the pulleys, reels, drums, etc. And some strength, that may be a impact, wear, rough, or all these types of sufficient strength for its rated service. So all these guidelines are given under this rule number 60 sub rule 5 of Gujarat factory rule. The other guidelines, that is general guidelines, maybe a positive stops or limit switches shall be provided to prevent overrunning the safe limits. Lower and upper travel limit switches should be provided. Then lubrication points shall be in safe position. Then all gears, moving parts, couplings and rope naps should be totally enclosed. Traveling cranes should have powered and non-power warning bells. Then sheaves and drums should be inspected for wear. Then enlarged grooves indicate replacements, and some other necessary conditions are should be observed, like fire extinguishing systems or the material of construction of all these machines and tackles. Then care, testing, inspection and maintenance of these lifting machines and tackles. So under this point, this is the table from which you can have the idea that which points are included for this care, testing and inspection and maintenance for the lifting machine and tackles. So the design point is appropriate factor of safety, sound material and good construction, For this design, the operation is trained operator, no loading above SWL and moving hook load. So from the operation point of view, what is the point? From the design point of view and from the maintenance point of view. So periodical test and certification, lubrication of parts and repair should be done. That is under the maintenance parts. So likewise, you can go through this safe design, then marking of SWL, identification, then limit switches, brakes, anchoring, earthing, guarding, means of access, ladders from the operation point of view, signaling arrangement, warning signs, raising or layering, lowering the signals, then some instructions, then work near trucks, then how to take care, then daily as well as the periodic inspection, and some display of notices and load tables. So these are some of the points where you can understand how to care, how to test, how to inspect, and how to maintain the lifting machines and tackles. Some specific points are mentioned here, like for the hoist and lifts, some do's and don'ts should be displayed. Some testing and examinations or certification dates and their parameters should be displayed for the hoist and lift. Especially when we are talking about the lifting tackle or gear, then 10%, more than 10% wires are found broken. That is the general observation, and these wires should be replaced. Then some other testings should be done, which is mentioned under this factory rule as well as in the factory act, especially for the test certificate. And the main parameter is SWL, that is safe working limit. Some points which is mentioned for the metallurgical defects and heat treatments. So we have already discussed that heat treatment is very essential for having the strength, ductility, hardness, toughness properties, and for all these types of characteristics and for the heat treatment, there are some guidelines for the machines and tackles. So ferrous and non-ferrous metals are used for this lifting gear. That may be a monal metal, 2/3 nickel, 1/3 copper, etc. Then copper is the main constituent in brass and bronze. Then aluminium is also going to use. Then manganese is used for high strength, ductility, corrosion resistance. Then some for the welding processes. Other metals can be used, and some cooling or heat treatment is also done for the links, rings and chains also. And depending on our requirement, we have to decide the desired shape, and on the basis of this desired shape, we can go for the forging operation, drop forging steel, etc. So depending on our requirement, whether we required a particular property, and on the basis of that property, we should go for the different heat treatments to avoid the metallurgical defects. So sometimes the material may be brittle, sometimes a material may be more toughened than the expected, and sometimes the material strength is going to reduce due to some reasons. So all these things should be taken care, and we should go for the heat treatment to avoid these types of defects. That is called as metallurgical defects. Then normal inspection periods for this inspection of tackles are 3 months, 1 month, 12 months, 3 years, 12 months, 6 months, depending on the device. That is for hoisting and lowering wire rope, 3 months, wire ropes with broken wire 1 month, cranes and attachment 12 months. Then thorough inspection of all parts of cranes 3 years, all other lifting machinery 12 months, half inch and smaller gear 6 months, etc. So there are different guidelines for the inspection of these tackles. And these are the general guidelines, especially when we are talking about the fiber ropes, wire ropes, or some defects found in the wire ropes or the fiber ropes. So we have to taken care about these broken wires or worn wires, or if the wearing and tearing is done with in that wires which is used in the machine or which is attached to the machines for various purposes. So these are some of the examples where you can understand what exactly the problems may be and which can be identified in the inspection of tackles only. So this is the bird caging, dog legs, severe wear, then core prostration or king crop, etc. So that can be inspected or identified by the expert person or the competent persons. Then the next one is chains. So most of the causes of chain failure can be detected before they occur if proper procedure is followed. So frequency of sub inspection depends on service conditions. Normal defects are stretch or deformation, excessive wear, cracks, nicks or gouges, corrosion pits, etc. So these are the different points which should be observed in a daily routine or in a frequently inspection. So if you observe all these things and if you remove this defect or avoid these defects, then the accident related to the chain can be avoided. So from this table you can understand what exactly the normal chain link diameter should be in mm when the diameter at one section is as under, that is in terms of again, reduce rated capacity by this much. It means if the normal chain link diameter is 6 if it is reduced by 5%, that is 5.75 or 5.70. Then remove from service when dia 10% is or lower. So 5.7 or 5.75 is permissible, but when it is less than 5.40, then it should be removed from the service. That is the main guideline. So depending on the diameter again, like 6, 9, 13, 16, 19, 22, 25, 5% calculations are there, and here 10% calculations are there. So it is important. So if the diameter of this chain link is less than these points, which is in then we have to remove the link from these services. So these can change the safe working limits as well as the other properties like hardness, toughness, ductility, etc. So for the safety purpose, we have to remove and replace these types of chain links. Then chain pulley, winches and derricks. So in initial slides, we have already discussed about some of the points that we have to take care about the safe load, we have to take care about the distance criteria, we have to take care about the thickness, the material of construction, the wear and tear of these winches or pulleys, and we have to take care about the strong construction or the bonding between these derricks and the platform. Then the safe location is another point in this presentation. Safe location or storage of lifting tackles is necessary. Proper storage of chains will impress the workers. The need for proper care at all times. The chain should be hung on ranks in dry air and normal temperature to prevent the rusting. So corrosion is another problem which is mainly observed in the region where the humidity is more or the temperature is more, because due to this temperature and humidity the corrosion rate is higher. So heavy chains may be stored in neat piles or rack surfaces. Dampness, darkness and corrosive atmosphere should be avoided. Slings should be kept on suitable ranks. Then SWL should not be exceeded. Then store the ropes in cool, dry room having good air circulations. Then hung the ropes up in the loose coil in pegs. Clean the rope after use and dry them before storing. Then fiber rope should be protected from the pest, rats, sun, weather and dampness, because the life of these fiber ropes due to this weather condition or due to these animals may be reduced. So these are some of the points which should be uh, thought while deciding the particular location for storing these machines or the tackles. So these are the examples of the conveyors. You can understand we can convey the material from one point to another point, and depending on the requirement, the conveyors may be in meters or in kilometers also. So there are various types of conveyors. Normally, nowadays we are using this metal conveyors and having the airways on the conveyors. So some of the general guidelines we already discussed, that we must know the safety distance from this point, the safety guarding of these conveyors, then the minimum speed or maximum speed of these conveyors, then the minimum height of the conveyors, the maximum height of the conveyors, then the safe angle for these conveyors, then the strength of these conveyors, etc. So all points should be noted down while deciding the precautionary measures for operation of these conveyors. So these are some of the specific criteria for elevators. So elevated conveyor should have walkway with toe board 10 centimeter and handrail 1 meter all along the length, etc. So there are various guidelines regarding these conveyors and elevators, which is mentioned in the different rules as well as can be guided by the competent persons. Then this is the SWL, which we have already discussed, section 28 of Factory Act and section 29. The maximum safe working load shall be plainly marked on the every hoist or lift, and no load greater than such load shall be carried thereon. That is the main guidance. These are the examples related to these SWL limits with reference to the Gujarat factory rules, and these displays can be used in the industry for the SWL limits. So these are marking systems of SWL, that is safe working load. So that may be safe working load in straight pull, choke, basket 0 degree, basket 90 degree, basket 120 degree, then slings, colors, etc. So these are the different guidelines which can be used for mentioning the SWL limits with the help of signs or with the help of colors. So these are the different colors. Place of marking of SWL of different equipment is shown in the table, that is lifting eye bolt, shackles, chain sling, multiple leg slings, wire ropes, chains, hooks, etc. And you have to provide this marking of SWL on a specific point, like lifting eye bolt side of the eye, then shackles on one leg SWL and other leg identification mark and symbol. And likewise, there are different guidelines for this marking of SWL on the different types of equipments. Then for the calculation purpose, the SWL formula is minimum breaking load quoted by the manufacturer divided by the factor of safety. So this example is SWL is fire rope diameter square into 8 kgs. For example, for 12 mm dia wire rope, 12 square into 8, that is 1152 kgs. So for using this 12 mm diameter wire rope, we can go for the safe working load as a 1152 kgs. So this SWL of single vertical hitch, H into H by L into 2. For double basket hitch, SWL equal to SWL of single vertical hitch into H by L into 4. So likewise, there are various formulas, guidelines are given in the respective act and rules, and from these acts and rules, we can use the SWL calculations as well as SWL marking on a particular part of these machineries and tackles. So these are some of the examples of the factor of safety with respect to the item. So that is mild steel hook, then the factor of safety 5. Likewise for the high tensile steel hook, wire rope sling, then C hook, endless wire slip, stand hook. All these are the items and these are the factor of safety. So all these factor of safety should be used for the SWL calculation and with reference to IS codes or with reference to the acts, rules, or which is guided by the competent person. So these are the various examples of this factor of safety. This is the detailed idea regarding the proof test, where we have discussed about the testing and examination of all these machine and tackles with reference to SW, and it is necessary with reference to rule number 60/1 of GFR. So test load in tons, that is grade up to 30, then 12 d square. D is the diameter of the material from which the chain is made. So depending on the grade, that is up to 40, up to 60, up to 80, etc. 12 d square, 16 d square, 24 d square, 32 d square. And these are the proof test load. That is for chains, rings, hooks, shackles, coils, etc. 2 SWL. Likewise for the pulley blocks, single shave, 4 SWL. Then multiple shave pulley block, 2 SWL. And likewise for the electric hoist, cranes, endless links, derricks, etc. So we have already discussed about the section 28 and 29, which are the main references. And in these sections also, they have mentioned about the competent persons, their duties and responsibilities. So for a competent person, 7-year experience is required after B mechanical or electrical to test and certify the hoist and lifts. The rule is 2A GFR. You can refer the different rules of different states also for the competent person qualifications. For lifting machines and tackles, BE metallurgy is also allowed. Duties expected by the competent person include load testing, heat treatment, and checking of safe working conditions. Facilities for such work should be available at his workshop. The thorough examination means visual examination, hammer test, detection of cracks, porosity, and other damage, and by dismantling the parts in order to arrive at a reliable conclusion as to the safety of the parts. So these are the guidelines given under these rules, which is related to the competent person. What exactly the duty of the competent person is? To study the provision of the Factory Act, rule, and other statutory requirement pertaining to the hoist, lift, lifting machines and tackles, to study Indian standard and other relevant codes for design, operation, maintenance, testing, and certification of material handling equipment, to go on call to the manufacturers, users of the material handling equipment to test and certify them, to keep the necessary load testing, heat treatment, NDT, that is non-destructive testing, and other equipment to test the machine parts, to keep ready the statutory forms to be filled after the statutory examination or testing, to report the defects to be rectified to the user, customer, and to the concerned authority, to test and certify again after the rectification of the defects previously notified, to get renewed the certificate of competency issued by the authority. So these are the different duties of the competent person. The main duty is to inspect, check, test, or examine the different mechanical machines or tackles with the help of available testing, especially where the IS standards are required. The responsibility is to calculate the SWL where it is not available, then to prepare a table of SWL and load angles in case of jeep crane or multiple slings where SWL varies at different angles of the jeep or legs, and to display near the machine. All hoist, lift, lifting machines and tackles shall be thoroughly examined and tested and certificate in the prescribed form, that is number 9 for hoist and lift number 10 for the lifting machines and tackles. So there are variety of forms for these lift and hoist and for lifting machines and tackles. The different types of load test, including deflecting test of an overhead traveling crane, shall be carried out and certified. Different types of defects shall be ascertained and remedial measures shall be suggested to remove them. Defective parts that may be lengthened, altered or repaired by welding or otherwise should not be used again unless it is adequately tested, examined and certified in writing by him. So these are the different responsibilities of the competent person. The main responsibility is to avoid the accident or incident which is related to the hoist and lift or machine and tackles. So for that purpose, we have to take care about the heating treatment process also. That is, annealing is one of the process that should be supervised at 6 months interval of the parts made from a bar of 12.7 mm or smaller, at 12 months interval of all other parts in general use. Any chain or lifting tackle subjected to normalizing instead of annealing shall be thoroughly examined him at 12 months interval, and particulars of such examination shall be entered in form number 10. To attend an office of the authority to court on call in connection with any examination, test should be carried out by him or certificate given by him. To obey all these instructions, he should notify the serious defects and safety measures pointed out by him in relation to specific cases where a testing period needs to be decreased and interventions of the CIF is necessary with reference to the section 29 of this Factory Act 1948. So these are the various details which is related to the mechanical handling of the material. Thank you.